Welcome everyone, my name is Holly Fortenberry and this is Beyond Sustainable Living. On this channel, I discuss and teach sustainability concepts and practices to help people live a more abundant, connected, and sustainable life. If you're new here and like this topic, please consider subscribing. Things began to change in 1600 as famous philosopher René Descartes emerged as one source of the Western thought that nature was something to be controlled and managed by humans. In the early 17th century, French father of modern philosophy René Descartes framed the world as essentially split between the realm of mind and that of inert matter. As the only rational beings, Descartes saw humans as wholly separate from and superior to nature and non-human animals, who were considered mere mindless machines to be mastered and exploited at will. Descartes' work was hugely influential in shaping modern conceptions of science and human and animal identities in Western society. Philosopher Val Plumwood was among the first to suggest that it is these attitudes themselves that cause the world's environmental crises. For example, when we talk of, quote, natural resources and, quote, fish stocks, we are suggesting that the Earth's fabric holds no value apart from what it produces for us. That mindset leads us to exploit it recklessly. Scholars such as Timothy Morton and Bruno Latour remind us that viewing the natural world as separate from humans is not only ethically problematic, but empirically false. Microorganisms in our gut aid digestion, while others compose part of our skin. Pollinators such as bees and wasps help produce the food we eat, while photosynthetic organisms such as trees and phytoplankton in the ocean provide the oxygen that we need in order to live, and in turn take up the carbon dioxide we expel. The discussion of the concept of sustainability can be found from the time of the European Enlightenment around 1700, when the unsustainable use of resources and their social and economic impact sparked concerns. The Enlightenment movement, occurring during the 1600s and 1700s, split into two branches, one which promoted sustainability and the other capitalism. Capitalism, led by Adam Smith, valued deregulation and the growth of consumption, population, private wealth, and industrial technological inventions such as the cotton gin, steam engine, and power loom. All contributed to expanding pollution, but the steam engine was especially powerful and very polluting. The branch of the Enlightenment that was the source of the concept of sustainability rose out of forestry concerns. A Saxon mining administrator and forestry expert, Hans Karl von Carlowitz, first coined the term sustainability, Nachhaltigkeit, in Germany. He ran the Saxony silver mine that needed trees to heat forged tools and hold up walls. But trees were the main source of fuel before coal displaced it in the late 1700s and 1800s. He wrote a treatise on the sustainable use of forests, drawing on forestry codes written by John Evelyn in England and Jean-Baptiste Colbert in France. But his was unique in its advocacy of sustained yield forestry. The core of the belief was that human societies should live and thrive within their limits. Unfortunately, this belief system was drowned out at that time by the powerful emerging force of industrialization. In the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution brought rapid growth. You know, it strikes me as interesting how we all want to live within our means, and we really should. That's a great idea financially. But why don't people see that with the environment? Like, why would you want to live within your financial means individually, but then not think about your environmental means, because these are all contexts within which we have to survive and make the best. And I don't understand why people don't see the environment as their means to live within. Maybe they don't understand the scale, so they just don't think about it, or they just really don't care because it doesn't affect them personally, which I find a problem with that morally. But I just think it's something to consider and really think about, because it's very interesting. We all want to live within our means, but it's not just our own little specific little job in our family. There is a larger means that we need to work within as well. I don't know. I just think that's interesting. People don't talk about that too much. They don't think about it as a general rule. And I honestly think that for many people, they just can't think of it on the scale. They don't see themselves as part of it. So that's something I wish people would really think about more. Just ponder that and think about your place in the world, not just within your community, but in the world. In the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution brought rapid production and growth, urbanization, air and water pollution, and worker exploitation. If you've never read the book The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, which details these exploitations, I highly recommend it. In 1804, the term sustainability appeared in forestry studies in Germany as people began to manage the timber harvest for use as a continued resource. When German forestry researcher George Hartig described sustainability as utilizing forest to the greatest extent possible, but still in a way that future generations will have as much benefit as the living generation. In 1848, John Stuart Mill was the most influential English language philosopher of the 19th century. He was a naturalist, a utilitarian, and a liberal whose work explores the consequences of a thoroughgoing empiricist outlook. He sought to combine the best of 18th century Enlightenment thinking with newly emerging currents of 19th century Romantic and historical philosophy. His most important works include System of Logic in 1843, On Liberty, 1859, and Utilitarianism, 1861. He said that, quote, economic growth should not continue indefinitely, but should culminate in a stationary state in which people are happy and prosperous. In 1854, Henry David Thoreau published Walden, or Life in the Woods. Thoreau was an American author, poet, philosopher, abolitionist, naturalist, tax resister, development critic, surveyor, historian, and leading transcendentalist. He is best known for his book Walden, a reflection upon simple living in natural surroundings, and his essay Civil Disobedience, an argument for individual resistance to civil government in moral opposition to an unjust state. Thoreau is seen by many people as the father of the modern environmental sustainability movement. He's a hero of sustainability, and his ideas, expounded in 20 volumes of writings, have influenced many other heroes of sustainability. Thoreau was deeply interested in the idea of survival in the face of hostile elements, historical change, and natural decay. At the same time, he advocated abandoning waste and illusion in order to discover life's true essential needs. He was a lifelong abolitionist, delivering lectures that attacked the fugitive slave law. Thoreau's philosophy of civil disobedience later influenced the political thoughts and actions of such notable figures as Leo Tolstoy, Mohandas Gandhi, and Martin Luther King Jr. One often cited quote of Henry David Thoreau is, "Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you imagine. As you simplify your life, the laws of the universe will be simpler." As of 1870s, many ecologists and environmentalists understood that industrial growth would have a negative impact on the natural world, and that the environment economics, and social well-being were intimately connected. One of these, John Muir's work, is the origin of the 3 E's of sustainability: environment, equity, and economics. This is now often thought of as planet, people, and profit, the 3 P's. John Muir, also known as John of the Mountains and father of national parks, was an influential Scottish-American naturalist, author, environmental philosopher, botanist, zoologist, glaciologist, and early advocate for the preservation of wilderness in the United States. His letters, essays, and books describing his adventures in nature, especially in the Sierra Nevada, have been read by millions of people. For example, in September 1867, Muir undertook a walk of about 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers, from Kentucky to Florida, which he recounted in his book, A 1,000-Mile Walk to the Gulf. He had no specific route chosen except to go by, quote, the wildest, leafiest, and least trodden way I could find. His activism helped to preserve the Yosemite Valley and Sequoia National Park, and his example has served as an inspiration for the preservation of many other wilderness areas. The Sierra Club, which he co-founded, is a prominent American conservation organization. In his later life, Muir devoted most of his time to the preservation of the western forests. On September 30th, 1890, the U.S. Congress passed a bill that essentially followed the recommendations that Muir had suggested in 2 Century articles, The Treasures of the Yosemite and Features of the Proposed National Park, both published in 1890. All right, have a happy week. Bye-bye.